Folks, all I can tell you is I almost remember exactly where I was when I read the words, call the damn leads. Today on the Second Chance podcast, we're sitting down with Drewbie Wilson, entrepreneur, author, and the mastermind behind exactly what I just said. Call the damn leads. I think it's one of the coolest growing up with where he didn't mind sneaking in a little cuss word. Absolutely one of the coolest reminders of when you're trying to teach sales teams, man. His journey is one of resilience, reinvention, from losing over 100 pounds multiple times to walking away from high paying opportunities that just didn't align with his values. He's faced his challenges head on, including losing a job before Christmas and narrowly avoiding life altering consequences. Now he's here to help others take control of their lives, and his daily accountability tools, inspired messages, crush the day before it crushes you. Let's dive in, man. I am serious. Like I'm a little I don't get starstruck, Jeremy, but your message spoke to me right off the bat. And when I saw the opportunity just to get to know you a little better, I was excited. I was really excited because I love your message.
Jeff, man, I can't tell you how honored and humbled I am by your words there because to know that we are getting our movement out there,
Yeah.
that other people are seeing it and embracing it, it means the world to me. And to have a little bit of time today on your platform to help someone, anyone who hears this, maybe make a difference in their life, that is truly the thing I'm most grateful for because time is our most valuable asset.
Yeah.
Can't win it in a poker tournament, can't buy it, no one's getting a box of it on Christmas. uh, so investing a little bit with me here today means the world, brother. So thank you.
Yeah, I am. We were talking, folks. This is 100% the truth. I was scrolling. I work in some business coaching, and I'm always trying to, sometimes when you work with a business owner or a sales team, their biggest obstacle is them. They're not. They'll delete the leads off of their call list and go home early. We ran into that where a guy was he had 10 leads, and at the end of the day, instead of just leaving them to the next day and dealing with it, he would clear desk it and delete all the leads and didn't follow up with any of them. So when I saw that, I was sharing with Drewbie for everyone here listening. I screenshotted the saying to an old W-2 boss I had, and he messaged me back, said it needs to be on a shirt. So then I turned around and sent him your swag because it hits home. You're wearing the hat for the folks that aren't watching on video. Drewby's got on the hat that matches the brand, and so along with that, dude, I work in branding, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my, a phrase is going to take you everywhere you want to go, man. So envious of how you, another one I saw one time was big ass fans. They're everywhere now. If you ever go in a big box gym, they're all big ass fans. What do you need? Big ass
Big
fan.
ass fans. And you know what though, when I love that you think about that because the messaging behind a brand when you are lucky enough to get it right. And that's how I truly feel that I was just lucky enough to get it right on this one. But when it stands out, it speaks to the person hearing it on a deeper level. And if you've ever been in sales, if you've ever been in the grind of entrepreneurship or trying to start a business or heck, just working in a business where your responsibility is selling stuff, man, that is it. If
Yeah.
your output equals your input, and the hardest thing for people to do is pick up the phone and call the damn leads. And we're in 2024, brother, so it's super easy to just like hit ignore or be like, yeah, I'll text them, I'm gonna email them, and people don't answer the phones
Yeah.
anymore. Well, I can tell you, they ignore your text message just as easy. But calling the damn leads, man, it's just like Nike. Just do it. Just
Yeah.
it's the movement, it's the message behind it, and it's the reminder that we all need on occasion of what's going to get us the results.
I was a 911 dispatcher early on, right? One of my first jobs was a 911 dispatcher. And one of the things that taught me, and I wanted to speak to your audience for a second for people that are doing phone and call. And if you have the lead, you're way ahead. We're not talking about cold calling. We're talking about call the lead. It's a lead. And 911 dispatching is, my house is on fire and it's over here. So you're kind of sitting there with your eyes closed. You're in a blind. I'm in a room with no windows. If I have one, it's very small. It's very controlled environment. But when people would call in, I had the ability where I would visualize that emergency. So fast forward, when I went into sales, I was selling enclosed and open trailers, the things you put cars on and your lawnmower, all that stuff. We had a phone side, and I remember the first couple calls, uncomfortable, could not, just like, this is not that. And I remember going back to that thing, and once I figured out, all I had to do was close my eyes, visualize what they were explaining to me that they needed and the problem they were trying to solve, and just walk with them in my brain. Man, I loved calling them leads. God dang, it got to be. It was fun, but just that's the way I processed it. And I don't know how you are or other folks are, but it has to make, if I can make it make sense in my brain, and I can associate it with something that I've had experience around, man, I can. It's fun,
I
man.
I think you just hit on something, Jeff. That's like it's a special nuance of sales that you maybe don't even realize what you did there. So I want to break it down for the
Yeah,
people because there's
please.
something very special to that. In that you humans, we are very logical. We think. I mean, we have the biggest brain on the planet for a reason. We think, and so maybe not the biggest, but the most technical, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, man. I'm a sales guy. But the point is, we're as humans, we think, we make logical decisions. But when it comes to sales, there's an emotional aspect that's really important because even though people are logical with their decision making, they react based on their emotions.
Yeah.
And so, what you were doing there is you were helping people work through their emotions to make a logical decision by putting them in a situation that was comfortable to them, that was familiar to them. And so, by making that analogy, by bringing something together that helped them see themselves in the situation, they now had a level of comfort to where they could logically work through making that decision versus if someone can't see themselves in a position, you're working against the tide to help them make that decision because if they can't see it, they can't even figure out how it's possible. How are they even going to make that happen? So I love how you said that and how you worked through that and you likened it to you're working in the 911 dispatch because your whole job at that point was to become empathetic, to ask questions, to listen, to be very intentional with your responses. Bro, that sets you up for sales success. So, like, you didn't know it at the time, but literally,
Yeah.
all the things you were doing are the necessary parts of becoming an expert sales professional.
I got questions, but we're going right. I got some questions I want to get to because I'm thinking
Come on.
front. But here's what I'd like to know now. Here's a good one, and we're speaking to a lot of people. Why don't people call the damn leads?
Well, there's two main lanes that I find for that. So, one, people are lazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Plain and simple.
You're right.
Everybody, it's 2024, almost 2025 when we're recording this, and I think people live in a world of instant gratification.
Yeah.
We can pick up our phone and we can have pretty much anything we want to our doorstep within 30 minutes, 24 hours, depending on what the thing is. And so everybody lives in a world of instant gratification. I want it now. I want the result. I don't want to wait for it. And I understand because I'm also like a go getter. I want things now. I'm very go get after it kind of person. But I think when it comes to people making the calls, they're lazy because if they can't get it on the first call, they don't want to keep working for it. They don't want to have to keep working to get the result. They just want to take a pill and be done. They want to take a shot and not have to worry about it. They just want to pick up the phone and go, "Hey man, you need my shit. It's $1 million. Send me the check." And then people just send them a check for $1 million. And it's just like, that's not how it works, people.
Right.
I'm sorry. And so you can't just expect that to happen. And I think that's biggest thing is most people are just lazy. Now, I don't want to put that on everyone who's listening because if you're here, you spend time investing in yourself. You want to get better. So you're definitely not a lazy individual if you're here with us today. So what I would assume, and again, this is why I coach with people because I can't speak to everyone, but the big thing that I find, most people just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey man, I've been calling people for, all this time and they just don't answer anymore. I don't feel like I know what to say to them anymore." And okay, well, that's a whole different problem because if you don't know what to say to somebody, that means that you're not 100% convinced that what you do can help them. Because if you were 100% sure that your product or service could help someone, you would be really excited about asking questions and getting to know, hey, is this the thing that can help you solve your problem? So I build out on what's called the calls framework. And this is the way that you can make every single conversation that you work into or that you're, getting ready to do intentional. Because when you're intentional with your conversation, it makes it a lot easier to do because you're just checking off the boxes. Versus if you're like, I don't know what I'm going to say to them or how I'm going to go about this conversation. I don't have a script necessarily, which, Jeff, I don't know if you've ever realized this, but 90% of business owners and salespeople don't have a script that they work from. They just wing it every single time, and then they
Couple
wonder why they
qualifying
have
questions,
inconsistent
right?
results, man.
Yeah, couple qualifying questions,
And so that's just it. It's the calls framework. So I try to simplify it, and I put it in my Call to Damn Leads book, but it's CALLS. C stands for confirm the reason you're even having a conversation. Let's just get down to business, man. I'm not here to waste your time. You're not here to waste my time. This is who I am. This is why I'm here. This is what I do. And this is what happens if we work together. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And if it's not for you, totally okay. Who do you know that it might be for? Because too many people aren't asking for referrals. And I don't care if you don't need me right now. You may not, you may in the future, or someone you know might need me. And my job is to help people. So I'm going to ask. So confirm the reason you're having a conversation right off the rip. And this works in two ways. Inbound, hey, what made you decide to reach out and learn more about XYZ? Because you gave me your information, so I'm simply responding to learn more about why you're interested. If it's more of an outbound conversation, again, it goes back to the, hey, this is who I am, this is why I'm calling, this is what I do, and this is what happens if we work together. Just very simple. A stands for ask specific and relevant questions. So, Jeff, you touched on this. This is the pre-qualifying questions.
Oh.
Do you even need my product or service? Do you have a budget in mind? Do you have a timeline? Is this something that you think can truly benefit you? When was the last time you made a decision like this on something in this nature? There's all these different questions that you can ask, and that as a professional, if you looked back over your last 90 days of conversations, the people who signed up with you that decided to work together, they all answered these questions in some form or another, because you needed those specific data points, the information that they provided to you, in order to know if you could actually help them and then present a solution that would make them want to move forward with you. So you have to ask very specific and relevant questions to pre-qualify them. And if you're asking those questions, you ask and then you shut up. And you listen, which is the first L. You have to listen to the answers that you're giving them, because they will literally tell you everything that you need to know to get the problem solved if you're asking the right questions and then letting them say the things they need to say. But a lot of times you get into where people have been so trained on a script, or they're so just in the zone of doing things the way they've always done it, that they gloss over these questions. And when the person is speaking, they're just thinking about the next part of the script. They're just thinking about, hey, here's how I'm going to get to the close. And They're not even listening to what the person is telling them to be able to solve the problem. And so if you ask those questions and you listen with intent, you can move on to the second L, which is lay out a plan for success. All right, Jeff, based on everything you've told me so far, you're dealing with X, Y, and Z, and ideally you don't want to have that problem anymore, but you don't want to deal with this thing that's the big roadblock between you solving your problem and you having the thing that you want. Is that pretty fair to say? All right, good. Here's what we're going to do. My company is going to boom, 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 boom. This is the expectation. Here's the cost. And then you move on to S. Secure the bag. Because if you don't get them to sign on the line, which is dotted, which is a Glengarry quote,
Yeah.
if they don't sign the contract, if they don't pay you, then it was all for nothing. And Jeff, my guess is if you've been around as long as I think you have, you've met a lot of guys that are super awesome about building rapport, but they never ask for the sale.
Yeah.
You got to ask for the sale.
Yeah. I taught someone to say they were stuck in that one. I was like, ask them, where do you want to go from here? I'm like, if they were uncomfortable with that, and I was like, just say, you good? Where do you want to go from here? And it should take you to a credit card. It should take you to a credit card if you've done your job. But same thing, they were struggling with that hook, on you got your card with you, and then as time went on, I was like, you'll learn to kind of read the ones that are talking to you with the card in their hand. You're
Yeah.
just going right. So there's you're
You're
like, hey,
talking
what's that
yourself out
card
of the
number?
sale, and they're trying
Yeah,
to pay
yeah,
for it, and they're
yeah.
like,
Hey,
I don't know
what's
what's
that?
going on
What,
here.
yeah, yeah. How's the kids? What's the card number? What's it? Yeah, yeah. I got you. Right. You just
Yeah.
yeah. Don't. And I was like, don't. It's that's awesome framework. And I used to say, don't interrupt someone when they're trying to pay you, because sometimes they start. They continue on, or they over ask for the sale. And I'm like, dude, they're trying to give you the money. Stop talking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, dude, how did um, and I wrote down a couple things I wanted to know about your past and your big opportunities that you walked away from because they didn't align with your values. How do you define alignment in your life, and what advice do you have for others struggling with that decision?
Ooh, that's a deep one. So, alignment in life, it really starts to come back to like when you sit in silence and you're in that, you're in the truck and you're having those conversations with yourself and you're like, hey, I'm getting ready to go do this thing. And it feels icky, or you're like, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it because I'm going to get paid and I'm not going to feel great about it, but I'm going to feel good about the money, but I'm going to go do this thing. Like that's when you start to recognize that you're out of alignment with the situation that you're in. That you're doing it out of spite, or you're doing it just because you're supposed to be doing it. Um, but that's not bringing you passion. Like you don't sit down and look at the thing that you're about to do and you get all warm and fuzzy inside and go like, yes. Now, I'm not trying to say that my whole life is like warm and fuzzies all the time. That is definitely not the case. However, when I wake up every day, I'm excited and passionate about what I get to do. But leaving the opportunities that I left, it started that way. Started, I was super pumped, very excited. Every single day I was just like woke up ready to crush it. But then it got to a point where the things that were going on when I woke up, I dreaded going in. I dreaded having to have the conversations, to just be in that energy, because I knew it wasn't serving me to fulfill and find those warm and fuzzies. And like, not again, life isn't all warm and fuzzy, but you have to be able to find those moments. You have to be able to embrace it if you're going to operate at peak performance. If you're going to be a high level producer, you have to have high level energy. And I can tell you that if you're going into situations that are draining your energy, they're out of alignment.
Dude, so many people keep going down that path, and it's nudges, or like you said, is it's somewhere along the lines things have to line up with your core values, and if you don't have them, let's figure out how to let's create them. Right, reach out for someone, Google it, Chat GPT, but just there's ways to figure out that, but then because it's sometimes it's those conversations sometimes aren't as does it's not as certain for people to receive when they start talking about who they are and what they stand for, and especially just in a when you're personally developing is probably the best way to add
I'm
that.
really, you know what, Jeff? I'm glad you said that, because I've definitely met a lot of people who have struggled with like core values and what
Yeah.
are my core values and how to like what even would I write down for core values. And so when I start to think about that, an easy way to kind of look at it is, you know, when you pick your friends, what are the characteristics that your friends have?
Yeah.
And like what are the characteristics that your closest friends have? And when it comes to your family, what are some of those like old school family things that you just knew that was like, that is the thing. Grandpa did not let that shit
Yeah.
slide. And if you got outside that box, he'd bonk you upside the noggin. Those are core values. Those are the things that when you think about them, ping, they twing your heart a little bit. That's how you know. And a lot of times you kind of just got to sit down and you got to make a list of 10 or 15 different characteristics. And then you got to look at it for a little while. And then you got to go back and go, well, this one's important, but only sometimes or only in certain situations does it really matter to me. Sometimes I can just let it slide and I don't care. But like the things that you keep coming back to that you're like, nah, I don't slide on those. Nah, I don't, that's the line. There is no if, ands, or but. That is the line. That's how you can start to develop and figure out what your core values are, because you have a lot of values in life and things that are important to you, but the core, those are the ones that are just absolutely non-negotiable.
Yeah. Take a second, folks, hit pause and go back and listen to that part. If you're struggling with that, it's great advice, man. That could be that's a six figure advice. It's because it dials you in. It dials you into a certain mindset, and then you've got myself. I found sales. My public safety career was coming to an end, and I was moving into sales very uncomfortably, and then but you lost a job right before Christmas, and you're starting over after leaving this high salary positions. And there's an element of resilience that comes into your life just during that time. And speaking of those folks that are there, and that's you're like me. You're gonna have a following of folks that hope you're inspiring to to get out of their own way sometimes. But what are some of your biggest takeaways from that experience and going through those downtimes for you?
um it's really, everyone's journey is going to be different, and also the reason we all vibe together and we have these different tribes that we kind of find our clique or our people is because the experiences all have some similar energy to them, or a similar foundation of which things occur, and then we can all look back and go, well, yeah, I did see that happen, and you know what, that was, yep, that happened too, and damn, that's shit. All right, yep, you're talking to me, dog. Yep, oh yep, that's me, I'm the guy. Hey, how did you know? And that's why, especially when it comes to personal development and coaching and working with other individuals, sharing those stories and talking about the struggle is ultimately what tells other people that they can get through it.
Yeah,
I honestly, I think a lot of people, the resilience in people's lives comes from not needing the permission to go do the thing that they know they should or want to be doing in their life. And so when I think about, hey, the big opportunity, what it would be 10 years ago now, 11 years ago now, where I was working, had been working at the cigar shop for a number of years and helped them win all these awards and make lots and lots of money, because I was running all the numbers like I saw it all on paper. I looked at it. And then to be told 2 weeks before Christmas, hey man, I got to let you go. You never quite understand how that works, or in the moment why it's happening. But, you know, fast forward 90 days or 120 days later, that same company got investigated by the IRS and had all their assets frozen, and everybody who worked there was under investigation and having all, so maybe God was just trying to say, hey, brother, you just got to go. Get away from this situation. You don't
yeah,
necessarily, you don't know it yet, but there's a reason we're putting you here. And then I leave the cigar shop and I go all in on sales and I get into these different opportunities. And it ends up being one of the biggest blessings of all time, because now I start to learn and to grow. And even though it was uncomfortable in the moment, I mean, I'll never forget. I called my wife and I'm like, what are we going to do? I just literally spent my last dollar on Christmas presents. 2 weeks is, the rent's due. I don't have a job. No one's hiring 2 weeks before Christmas. Like, what are we going to do? Now, thankfully, she was a hustler too, and she stepped up and she took care of business, and we did what we had to do and we made it through. And then, we look back at it and we're like, what a great opportunity for us to learn and to grow. And then looking in, funny enough, last year, 2 weeks before Christmas, 5 years from the last time this happened, I walked into a office with my mentor and said, hey man, I love you and I appreciate all the things that we've built together, but I need to go do something for me, and I'm giving up the multi six figure salary, and I'm walking away from all the jet trips and all the things that you've been taking me on and allowing me to be a part of, because I put $13 million in cash in the business bank account. So like, yeah, I earned them. And also, as an employer, as a mentor, I was blessed to be given a lot of opportunity. And so the resilience always comes back to, hey man, no matter what happens, as long as I got my wife behind me, as long as I know that I got myself to show up and do the work to call the damn leads, anything in life can be done and be possible. And the only person that can stop it from happening is me.
yeah. You you gave yourself a really big second chance, a couple times. Losing over 100 pounds more than once. That's not, listen, I worked in fitness. I started I told someone this morning, I was like, I got into fitness so much trying to take care of myself, I bought the place, right? I got into fitness. I coach people in fitness, and 10 pounds, Drewbie, is a feat for a lot of people. You got twice or more times that you've done that. What drove you to make those changes, and how's that impacted you?
You know, the first time I jumped on the scale and I read 315 pounds, I was probably 19, maybe 20 years old, and I had been working third shift, playing video games, eating like shit, sleeping like shit, just really was not taking care of myself. And it was just where I was in life, you know. I had barely graduated high school, was a drug dealer, just doing my damn thing, not to, no care in the world, just living. And I remember looking at the scale and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and going, well, man, there's a reason you're not getting the attention in life that you want. And there's a reason that you don't have the confidence that you should have to feel like you can go and get those things that you want. And this weight is probably part of it. And so I went on a journey and I gave up sweet, sugary drinks and stopped eating fast food. And, I went from 315 down to like 225. And I worked hard, man. I didn't go crazy on working out. I just watched what I ate and I was just more active, but not like intentional with actual fitness. And I started doing more drugs and I got skinny and I was just running and not eating as much. And I met this beautiful young lady and we started dating. And then, what happens when you start dating, man? You go out to eat and you have a couple of cocktails and you get dessert and then fourth meal on the way home from the bar. And then, we got married and she got pregnant and fuck, bro, I looked up, I was 285 pounds again.
Yeah,
And I was like, what is going on? And then my son was born. And it was in that moment where it was like, I had the beautiful girl, I had the son, I had the house. I was lazy. I didn't do the work. That's why I got fat. And my wonderful wife came to me and she's like, listen, man, I love you and I'm grateful for our relationship. However, the man that I originally met and married is not the same man that I'm looking at right now.
yeah,
And that hurt. Like, that was tough, man, but it was the truth. And it was in that same time period that I was starting to learn about personal development. And I had another friend and mentor that had reached out to me and he's like, hey man, you're working hard, you're learning how to make more money, you've got this little company on the side. Like, what happens if you have a heart attack and you got to sit in heaven and some other asshole is in your bed with your wife while your son's in the other room crying because you're not around because your lazy ass wasn't working out taking care of yourself? What a double whammy. I got my wife telling me one thing, I got another friend telling me the same shit, and it's like, Drewbie, get your act together.
yeah.
And that's what I've been working on, man. It's a
Stay,
struggle, bro. Like, body
yeah,
dysmorphia does not go away. I was 183 pounds at my strongest. I finished Live Hard, all the things. I got down to 183 pounds. I was ripped and I hated myself. It's like,
yeah,
this is awful. I'm a string bean. That's normal weight. My normal weight, I hated the way I looked. The same amount of hatred that I had when I was 315 pounds. So now my main focus is, how do I feel? It's not the number on the scale. How do I feel inside? That's the most important piece.
we teach that. We teach that in our gym, dude. On same things. We got to fit in your lifestyle. If it don't fit in your lifestyle and how you feel, and paying attention to those, and don't try to be um, fat loss versus weight loss. Two separate numbers. So many people focus on that weight loss. My height weight. Since I'm sitting down, I can tell you I'm 6'1", but I'm not. I'm five. I'm five. I think if my wife's in the room, I'm 5'8". I'm 5'7", and my height weight's like 180. and I lift weights and I work out and I hit a gram of protein per pound of body weight, and I run around 200 to 220 depending on the time of the year and where I'm kind of at. But big difference. I don't but I try to keep my fat loss. I try to keep my body fat percentages in perspective as well. Do you your advice your friend gave you is we used to use that in public safety about taking care of yourself. If you ain't careful, somebody else is gonna be over banging your wife, petting your dog. We
That's
used to
it.
be petting your
That's
dog,
it.
hugging your kids. We used to say something
Uh,
similar all the time to each other. Then we twist it around and say somebody's gonna be over banging your dog and petting your wife, and
I mean, but it's the truth, and
it
it's the sad
is.
truth. Like, unfortunately, man, you meet so many entrepreneurs and people in general who are like, I'm on this grind, I'm doing this for this legacy and this future that I'm creating for my family, and it's like that's all well and good, but like if you're not there to enjoy it with them, man, what's the point? Like there's layers to this life, man, and as you peel them apart and you start to understand what's truly important, what are again, going back to the values, the thing that bring you those warm and fuzzies, man, like we all know how to make money. We're gonna make more money.
Yeah.
I'm for sure of that. The time that I get to spend with my wife, the time that I get to spend with my kid, the fact that we, are able to be here and help take care of my father-in-law, like that stuff you can't get back. So I'm
No.
gonna worry about that stuff first.
It's a big deal. You stepped through skirting by some legal troubles, through some divine intervention. How's faith played a role in your second chances and your overall success story?
Man, I grew up very much anti all of it. No, it's stupid. God wouldn't put me in this position if he was his God and holy of all the things. And like I didn't understand that in order to become the man that I had to be today, to do the things that I'm doing, I had to go through those trials and tribulations. And I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And, like all things in life, when you don't understand it, it's frustrating. You rebel against it. You don't want to embrace it because it's not in alignment. It's like if you got two gears that are supposed to fit together, but they're just grinding all against, like that's not cohesive. Things break down that way. So as I got older and I started to see these different scenarios play out, and I had to look at and say, there's just no logical explanation for the fact that I just got away from that, or that I wasn't in the situation that I should have been in where these things happen, but for whatever crazy divine reason, I wasn't there. And there was just a certain point where my wife and I kind of looked at each other and were just like, we probably need to let God more into our lives, and we need to embrace the fact that all the things that we've been through and that, all the things that we have right now, there's no other explanation other than that faith and that belief.
Yeah. Same. Struggle with that. Grew up more in a Christian based, and my grandmother committed suicide, and there's a conflict there between the two. By Christianity standards, my grandmother goes to hell. Um, but then I was fortunate as I grew to just find faith in God outside of um, yeah, a little more non-denominational, I think you could say, less biblical, more just in a good spot. I think a few people refer like a universal conscious, just a belief in God or higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's where it's, and when I speak, and hopefully you and I will be able to connect. At some point in time when I speak, I kind of journey that through my story of childhood and then through getting into public safety and then how some butterfly effects happened in my law enforcement career that really set me off on one of these things to where you got to say like purpose and faith, like it's a really big deal. I can tell you right now, dude, this shit came to life. And you can, when you hear the story, you're like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's, I can't think of, one of the ladies I worked with, and she's like, Jeff, we like to call that divine intervention where I'm from.
Well, and
Lynn. Lynn Lewis
So
is who told me that.
there's a perfect example of this. I'll never forget, man, when I walked away from the big salary and we made this decision. Hey, we're going to sell our home. We're going to move into this RV. We're going to travel the country and truly embrace freedom. My wife and I, we were walking into Walmart to get totes to pack stuff up. And I remember we were both just like super emotional. And, we're walking out the door and there's a guy sitting, there's always a Walmart greeter, man.
Yeah.
And there's this little old guy and he's sitting there and he's big old portly fella and he's got a big beard and this, hat on. And I look at his hat and it's got a cross on it. And I just give him a little smile and he kind of looks at my wife and I and he's like, "Hey, man, I just want to tell y'all something." And we're like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" He's like, "If God's got it, you ain't got to worry about it, man. And God's got it." And that's all he said.
Oh,
And we just looked at each other and like, I get tears in my eyes thinking about it right now. Cause like
yeah.
we were in a moment going like, are we making the right decision? Like, are we crazy? Is this going to work? And then he hit us with that out of absolute nowhere.
Yeah.
And like, again, man, I get emotional thinking about it, but hey, there's no way to doubt that kind of stuff, man. God always intervenes in the right way. Divine intervention is a real thing.
I have so many of those moments like that to where purpose. So I went through a lot of things of trying to get to kind of where I'm at now on just discovery, right? And then connection and just kind of listen to my gut, go talk to this person, meet this person. Did some past life hypnosis, just trying to dial in. Like ran into some lady there and it's like, let's give it a shot. And some very eye-opening moments. Through all of it and just to end up exactly. So now I really try to pay attention to who's around me, the connections that I'm making, like ourselves, and great conversation we get to have. But then just that power of the moment. Eckhart Tolle was a book that Power of Now is by Eckhart Tolle. And it really, it came into my life same way a lot of stuff does, to where I would just happen to, it's like someone was talking about it, but I was talking about where I could hear it. And when they said it, I was like, Power Now. And I just put it in my phone, kind of set it there. And I went and looked it up, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And I listened to it. It was like really teaches you about being in the moment. It's good stuff. We're getting close here. I wanted to ask you. You do a lot of sales training and things along those lines. How do you want people to get in touch with you? And what's the best way to just what would you like to share with them? And I got one more question I was going to ask you.
You know what? I always love this question on how people can find me. The best way to find me is to follow these instructions. Step 1, share this podcast episode on the social media platform of your choice and tag me and Jeff in the podcast.
Yeah.
Because if you share this on social media, it's going to tell other people in the world that you got value out of your 45 minutes that you invested into this thing. And again, I said it from the start, time is your most valuable asset. So if you spent that time here with us today, I am truly honored and grateful. So if you'll share this on social media and tag me, I'm going to find it and I'm going to send you a message with some awesome stuff, a little bonus and some free, stuff to check out and look through about what we do. And if there's anyone who wants more than that, go to callthedamnleads.com, check us out, go through the store. I've written 4 books that I have on there. We've got keychains and wristbands and swag and all kinds of different little reminders. But the best thing is share this episode first to let the world know that you enjoyed it, and then come and find us on the website and we'll find you from there.
Yeah, definitely. If you reach out for me, I'll make sure I call the damn lead. Dude, I just want to ask you just to kind of, I like that this is an opportunity for me um, to kind of just put an exclamation point with the stuff that you do and how you're just able to help these potential or even top performing salespeople that want to continue to perform, but you're also stale. Your initiative, like Diary of a Damn Closer and the Daily Accountability Tool, are all about action. What's a practical strategy or mindset shift that you can leave us all with, that we can that they can adapt and take control of their life and business?
So the Diary of a Damn Closer is really, it'll break down this whole process in detail. So shout out to you, Jeff, for giving us a plug on that. But I call it the 4 6s. If we know time is the most valuable asset that we have, the first thing that we need to truly know is what value are we giving our time to the world? And what I mean by that is like, what is your time worth? If someone wanted an hour of your time, how much is it worth? And most people don't have any idea. They come from this hourly mindset of like, oh, well, I'd get $10 an hour, $25 an hour. Like, but most entrepreneurs don't get an hourly rate. They're like commission, or they, so they don't know. So the secret is you take all of the money that you made last year, main job, side job. If you're sharing pictures of your feed on the internet or whatever, like, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, if you're putting in the energy and effort to make money on it, add it up and then divide it by 2,000. Because if you were a normal average person, you'd work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, and you'd take a 2-week vacation. And that's about 2,000 hours of work every single year. So the easy math is, if you made 100 grand last year, your time's worth about $50 an hour. To some of us, growing up making $10 an hour, thinking that's all we'd ever make, 50 is pretty sweet. Other people are going, fuck, if I only made $50 an hour, I don't know. And here's how I know that's the case. Because if I put on my hood and I knock on your door and I'm like, all right, Jeff, congratulations. My name is Death. You have 24 hours left to live. Here's $50. Come with me. What kind of response would you give me, Jeff?
Yeah,
exactly.
I ain't got gas in the car to get us to where we're trying to go. $50 ain't gonna go very far.
No, man, $50 ain't gonna do a whole lot. And honestly, people start to realize at that point, there's a realization like, well, there is a number to where I know that if I was to get $1 million, I would pretty much do whatever I had to do for that hour because of what that money could do for the people in my life that I care about.
Yeah.
And so we're all trading time for dollars in some fashion or another. But the difference is when you start to become intentional, you know that time is your only asset that you have to invest every day. And so the 4 6s is all about investing your time in the areas that I personally consider to be important. Not everyone agrees, but I look at it like this. You got to sleep. You got to be with your family. You got to work. And the thing that most people forget to do is take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Which is why they feel burnout, which is why they're overweight, which is why they're not satisfied in life, because they're not putting themselves at the top of that list to make sure that they are in peak performance, so that they can be in peak performance for everybody else in their life. They're scheduling their family time with what's left after work and everything else, instead of making their family their priority and working everything else in. And when you start to go through this process and you go through the diary of a damn closer and you truly understand what your dream life would look like if you could live it every day, the 4 6s strategy is how we measure our time investment to get an ROI.
Yep. My friend Bryce Henson, I'm in a group with them, and he said the other night when he was doing some teaching, if they don't want to be you, they won't follow you. And the way that you present this stuff is so simple. And the strategies that you give is so easy to follow. But your story of weight loss and overcoming all the things that the lady and gentleman that's listening right now is hearing, it makes every reason for them to want to, everyone that I can think of that I've come into contact this week in my coaching, you're every reason and a beacon that they should follow. Just through that journey and how you say it in a way. If you say it in a way that old Jeff can understand it, it's pretty dang simple. And you have, but you solve really, really big problems with simplicity. And I can't thank you enough for spending time with me, man. And I hope our paths cross in person, so I can tell you that in person someday.
I hope the same, Jeff. And I'm just truly honored and grateful for a little bit of time from yourself and from the listener. And I hope that you take one thing out of this call and you implement it, because it doesn't matter if you learned it. You have to implement it to get the result. And if you do that, everything else just comes back to the one thing I always tell you, man. Call the damn leads.
Call the damn leads. That's what we're going to end on. Thank you, brother.